Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about the latest gaming book I have just finished reading, the Pathfinder Chronicles campaign setting. This is for their Galorian campaign, which is the name of the continent it takes place on. It's a pretty substantial looking book, and it is just chock full of information, both of the fluff variety, those that like descriptive things, and of the crunch variety, for those such as myself that enjoy playing with mechanics more than they enjoy the flavor text. The bulk of this book are the descriptions of the nations and city-states in the world. And each passage gets 2 to 4 pages, which means there can't be a lot of depth. But there's enough there to whet your appetite, to get you interested, to give you an idea of what that nation is, its alignment, preferences, its government functions, its the kind of breakdown of the populations, what the city-state or the nation's known for, that kind of thing. Important settlements in nations and things like that. And they're all laid out the same, which is handy. Unfortunately, because they're laid out exactly the same, and I read these in order, just like one after another, they really started to bleed together for me. It's just after a certain point of like I was reading this over course of days. After a while you're like, wow, there's a whole lot of nations here. You were forgetting I was forgetting what I was reading, simply because the settings, the setup was so similar from city to city and nation to nation. Which I see is that is not really something you can get around, because you really need to have it set up the same way, so that when you need to go look up Cheliax, for example, you can find all the information because you know where it is, because you read the other entries, So it's something you have to deal with. I wouldn't necessarily recommend reading these things back to back like that, because they all kind of just blend together. I think that the two best to come to mind was the nation that is their version of Egypt, which I thought was pretty well done. And they also have a no mana city-state, a place where there's no magic whatsoever. And that's the city-state that has developed technology to a very high degree, including firearms, because of that. And the city keeps the firearm production artificially low to keep the price up. Of course, they stock themselves up with firearms if they need be. Now, I have a problem with this. Firearms aren't that complex. Not even percussion cap firearms, which is what they have in this setting. And if you've got a world with artificers and alchemists and dwarven smiths, as soon as one firearm gets out of that nation, and therefore sale, someone's going to reverse engineer them and start cranking them out to undermine your prices. Even if you're making them one at a time, you're going to be able to make them for less money than this place is making them, because they're keeping it artificially low. They have one place that's producing firearms. If you had a dozen smiths someplace else, those prices are going to come down. That doesn't bother me. I don't mind if firearms are everywhere in the world. I've always had firearms in my games. It gives the people who are non-magic users the ability to stand toe-to-toe with other folks, and I appreciate that. Wasn't really thrilled with the way they handle the firearms. I don't think they did enough damage. I think they should be a little higher in damage. I like the fact that they had exploding dice, though, so that if you roll maximum on your damage die, you roll another die. If you roll maximum the second time, you roll again. So it's open-ended. I appreciate that. This book has got feats, it's got spells, it's got equipment, armor, weapons, you name it, prestige classes. This book has got everything you need to run this world. So I really do recommend anyone who wants to look at the Pathfinder Chronicle campaign setting, take the time to get a copy. It's worth it. Now, there are a couple of things that I didn't like much. So I already mentioned the firearms. They have a nation in here that is a nation of atheists. And it's not the nation that's in the no mana zone. You'd think if you were going to have an atheist nation, it would be the place where there is no magic. But no, there's another nation where there is magic, and religion is illegal because they had so many holy wars that they decided, we're just going to do away with the gods. And there's a problem with that. In our world, magic as it's presented in D&D doesn't exist. And yet, we have thousands of religions. In a world where magic does exist, where a first-level druid, priest, or acolyte can cast one spell and prove without a doubt that the gods are real, who the heck is going to be an atheist? I mean, I can understand a few academics here and there who want to do it for whatever reason they want to do it. But as a philosophy, as the world view of an entire nation, it's absurd. It makes no sense whatsoever. Not in a world where there is absolute concrete proof of the gods themselves. Heck, some of these gods represented in the book, and they're hidden here as well, used to be mortals, so they ascended into divinity. So, you might have known this guy at one point, So, it makes absolutely no sense to me that you would have a nation full of atheists. It just baffles me. If I were going to run this campaign, I would probably have that philosophy if I wanted to have it in the nation that's got no magic. At least there's a chance that it could survive because no one's going to be casting magic around you. Of course, as soon as someone leaves the no-mana zone, they're going to be exposed to the reality that, guess what? The gods are real. So, I just think it's kind of silly. But overall, this is a good book. It's very well done. I would have liked to see more depth on these nations. I understand why they're in. The book would have to be this thick to get enough depth on this. I read one of their free PDFs about the Flamelands, I think it was called, which had a lot of flavor about the desert society they were discussing. So I'm going to look into other Pathfinder products and see if there are ones dedicated to the specific nations, which is, I'm sure there's going to be something out there. These people want to make money. But again, if you're into the Pathfinder setting, I definitely would recommend this. My next book is going to be The Wheel of Time, which is a 3.0 book that came out early after the release of the 3rd edition rules. And I would like to thank my subscriber Alakov, who was nice enough to send me the copy of this book, and because I've never been able to get my hands on one. And I'll be reading it. I have no idea how long it's going to take me, because I'm going to probably have to read it a little more carefully, seeing as it's going to be introducing ideas that are significantly different than the standard D&D campaign. But that will be the game the book I'll be reading next, though I plan on doing some other reviews between now and then of gaming products. So I hope all the gamers out there, they can, if you don't hear from me before Christmas, may the gods and give you gaming gifts this year.